When you do the electoral math, no state, with the possible exception of Florida, is bigger or matters more to Republicans than the Buckeye State. We welcome Reince Priebus, chairman of the Republican National Committee, to Capitol Square today, joining us from Washington. Mr. Chairman, hello.
Hey, thank you, Jim. Happy to be on.
Hey, let me ask you, don't let me put words in your mouth. How important is Ohio to your nominee this fall?
Well, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it's just the total epicenter and ground zero for the map in this country to get to 270. It's a must-win for us. It's a must-win for Obama. I think, you know, you're all very sophisticated and used to the ground effort, the political mechanisms in place to move the electorate. And so Ohio will be front and center this year, and we need to do well there. We need to understand the electorate. We need to be on the ground and door to door, and all the things that you're all used to obviously will happen again and then some before November.
Does it surprise you? I mean, the same states, a handful of states, 6 or 7, basically determine these elections, at least as I think back 25 years or so. I mean, it's the Florida, Ohio, now we have North Carolina and Virginia in that mix, but it's basically the same handful of states that determine the president.
Yeah, it's like 10 or 11 states. There's no question about it. We think that we're going to play our maps a little bit bigger, obviously, this time around than in '08. Obama's vulnerable in a lot of states that I think that, you know, you see polling even in places like New Jersey where Obama's in the margin of error against Mitt Romney or another candidate. So I think that you're basically right. You're looking at 10 or 11 states. And so when you consider all of the money that gets raised and all of the resources that get raised, all for about 12 states and a ground operation there, it is unbelievable. And that's why when you have movies like, you know, So Goes the Nation about Ohio, I mean, it really is a technical, detailed effort to get out the vote. It's not just throwing things up at the sky and seeing what happens. It's literally, you know, micro-targeting lists, figuring out what neighborhoods, what homes. I mean, it really is something that the parties, both sides, have, I think, perfected. But it's it's high stakes and it's important to this country.
Mr. Chairman, Senator John McCain was in Columbus this week, told me that he is very, very worried about these super PACs. Obviously, the Supreme Court gave them the green light to spend money. Does that concern you? I mean, that's an additional lot of money that you're not controlling, the DNC's not controlling. I mean, how does that play this fall?
Well, first of all, I don't have a problem with super PACs, so to speak, or people's ability to exercise their First Amendment right. It's been vetted by the Supreme Court. That being said, though, I do think that we have a little bit of an uncontrollable and not a very good situation where you have the party committees, the Democratic National Committee and the Republican National Committee, that we're highly regulated, which is fine, but we disclose everything. We're limited as to how much money we can raise. But then when you compare that to a super PAC that doesn't file with the Federal Election Commission, they have no limitations and they have very little filing requirements as far as disclosure. And I don't like it. I don't agree with that. I think that the party should have just as much authority as these super PACs. At the very least, we should be at parity. But, you know, in the end, I think this election is going to come down to not so much who has more money, but really who has the better message. And we just happen to believe that Barack Obama hasn't fulfilled his promises and our economy is not where it should be. And I think the American people know that.
Mr. Chairman, the Ohio Democratic Party held a press conference this week demanding that Mitt Romney release more of his tax returns. He did, as Senator McCain confirmed to me, release 23 years to the McCain campaign back in 2008 as he was being vetted for VP. Why not just do that and end this issue that seems to come up every election cycle?
Well, I think that Governor Romney's first of all, have done everything that any other presidential campaign has done. He's released the 2010 tax return. He's released the estimated tax for 2011, so most of that information has already been released, and he's obviously fulfilled all of these financial disclosure requirements that, you know, the same thing that McCain did and John Kerry did and many other presidential candidates. I mean, I just find the whole thing really ironic, Jim, that you have a president demanding tax returns when his own administration won't answer a question on the GSA, won't release documents on Solyndra. I mean, it's another sort of red herring from a president. And in the end, this election is not going to come down to a tax return. It's going to come down to whether or not Barack Obama fulfilled the promises he made to the American people, whether it be jobs or debt or the deficit, and he hasn't done it.
And you've been very sensitive on this issue of whether there is a quote-unquote war on women within the Republican Party. You wouldn't argue, though, that Rick Santorum kind of took us there, right? I mean, his campaign was basically based on social issues and drove those issues for a significant amount of time earlier this year.
Well, I mean, I believe the war on women is just a made-up fiction, and it's pretty much died. I mean, actually, Jim, you're the first person that's asked me about it now in many, many days, which, you know, doing a lot of interviews, it seems like an eternity since someone's brought it up. I think the Democrats stepped in it. They went too far. Their house of cards collapsed with Hillary Rosen's comments that stay-at-home moms don't work. And the problem, Jim, in the debate is that the Democrats misconstrue the fact that, you know, being pro-life is somehow anti-woman. And so I know that's not what you're saying, but that's really what they're taking this debate to being, that if you're, you know, if you're not pro-abortion or you're not pro-choice, then you can't be pro-women, and that's just ridiculous. I mean, the fact is there's a war on women in regard to jobs in this country. They've been disproportionately affected by Barack Obama's economy. I think that's legitimate, and I think those are the issues that matter to Americans. I'm on this war on women and war on the rich, war on this and war on that. Listen, this is going to come down to the economy, jobs, and whether or not people are satisfied with the direction of this country, and
Chairman,
they're not.
I just asked it in context. There's a full-page ad in the Dispatch this weekend regarding the heartbeat bill, which is an anti-abortion bill in the state. We're down to less than a minute. Let me ask you a couple quick things. A very important Senate race this year. Could the Senate race in Ohio determine the majority in the U.S. Senate?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're going to have a top-tier Senate race there in Ohio. Ohio is so important for many reasons. I mean, obviously the top of the ticket, but obviously the Senate race there is really important. Tough congressional races there as well. We just need to really perform well as a party and really concentrate on the facts and the realities of what's facing this country in the economy in the next several months in order to make the case to Ohioans that we're the better choice to get this economy back on track.
Mr. Chairman, we have 10 seconds. Are you relieved that this intra-party fight in Ohio is over between the governor and Kevin DeWine?
Well, I think they're all really good guys, Kevin, Bob Bennett, and the governor. I'm just happy that we've got, you know, it's a peaceful resolution, and we're all moving forward to defeat Obama and save this country.
Chairman Priebus, we'll invite you on anytime. Hope to see you a lot between now and November. Thank you so much for joining us on Capitol Square. And we'll be right back in just a moment.